Hello and welcome to the Innovation Hub. Please come in and have a seat as we get started for our next presentation, where we're going to discuss cloud-free devices and automations that will help you create a trouble-free smart home for your customers that your customers will love. This presentation is going to be done by Pete Borchers. He's Director of Marketing at Habitat, who is living proof that you don't have to be a tech genius to successfully automate your home. He hosts the popular Hub Whisperer series on the Habitat YouTube channel, and on weekends he performs stand-up comedy around the Midwest. Please help me welcome him to the stage.
Yay! Oh, what a reception. Thank you so much. All right. Good to be here, guys. Oh, what an amazing crowd. Some of you are actually paying attention. I appreciate that. And to you, millions of viewers watching at home, thank you for joining us. I know, hopefully some of you are here to listen, to pay attention to home automation. Some of you are probably just having lunch and a convenient place to sit. But I welcome all of you today as well. So, like I said, my name is Pete Borchers. I'm the Director of Marketing at Habitat Incorporated. If you don't know what Habitat is, we are a home automation company. We have a home automation hub. It's a totally local hub. It has Z-Wave and Zigbee radios in it. Works with all your network devices as well that are integrated, but we focus on local home automation. Now, I am also been with Habitat for the last 5 years. I started when we came out with our first hub. I knew very little about home automation when I started, and the little I knew was actually wrong anyways. So I've learned a lot in the last 5 years about home automation, and I hope to share some of that with you guys today. Like you said, I am the host of the Habitat Hub Whisper series on our YouTube channel, and I don't know who put that there, but I was also the backup kicker on my high school football team. Not very relevant, but there we go. Looking back, I probably should have just joined the marching band. Would have been a lot better move for me. At least they got to go on the field. But anyways, I guess the real lesson here is don't let your colleagues send out your presentation deck before you look at it. So hopefully there's no more surprises in here with that. And this remote is not working. There we go. Okay. All right. So let's get to the topic at hand. We're talking about home automation. So home automation these days, everyone wants an automated home, right? They want an automated home. They want a smart home. But very few people know what that really is, right? You talk to the average person, they think an automated home is basically just another form of remote control, right? They're like, oh, I have an automated home because I can control things with my app on my phone. Or, ooh, I can talk to Alexa and tell it to shut my blinds, so I've got this automated home. But that's not automation, right? That's just another form of remote control. Real automation is more magical than that, right? With real automation, the home thinks for itself. You don't need a control there, right? Your lights are going to go on and off automatically when you walk in the room. Your locks are going to lock themselves when you leave the house, right? Your blinds might just open and close based on the amount of light you want in the room. You don't have to touch that at all, and that's the real magic of home automation. Now, to achieve home automation, you need to have some sort of a hub or some sort of a brain that communicates with all of your devices, right, and tells them what to do, senses what's going on, and pushes out what you want to do. So you either need a hub. If you don't have a hub, you can also hire some guy to follow you around the room, you know, shutting lights on and off as you move around the house. But, you know, that can get expensive. So if you're not a billionaire, a hub is really the way to go. So now there are two ways hubs can work for your home automation. There's local control. And with local control, all the processing is done locally on the hub, and everything stays within your network, right? So basically, devices send information to your hub, the hub processes that information, and then it sends different commands back to different devices in your house. All stays locally, nothing's going outside of your house, so you can really control and manage that. The other option for home automation is cloud control. Now with cloud control, automations are processed up in some cloud server. So the devices send their information to a hub. The hub then sends that information up to some cloud server somewhere in a mountain in Colorado or wherever it is. Then it goes back to the hub, and then it communicates with the devices. So there are a lot of different issues with that, with using the cloud servers, and we're gonna get to that because there are 3 keys to home automation success. All right, you want reliability. That's the most important thing. You have an automated home, it's great, but if it's not reliable, nobody's going to care. You got to have a reliable home automation. Number two, you got to have speed. Very important, right? You can't have these lag and things not working when they're supposed to. You got to have snappy automations. And the last thing you got to worry about is data privacy. It's a big concern these days. Nobody wants their data going up to places, to different servers where they don't know where it's going. People are taking that data, doing whatever they want with it, right? You want to maintain data privacy. So let's talk about reliability first, right? The problem with a cloud server is you're not going to get the reliability you will with a local control, because for number of reasons. Number one, that information is leaving the house, right? And that means you have to rely on an internet connection, right? If you're sending data outside the house, you got to rely on an internet connection. I'm going to give you guys a pop quiz. Pop quiz. What is the number one least reliable, what industry has the lowest approval rating of any industry in the country right now? Internet providers. The lowest approval rating of any industry these days. It has a lower approval rating than health insurance, all right? If you are hated more than health insurance, you're doing something wrong, all right? So if you are using cloud automations, if you're relying on a cloud server, you're dependent on an industry that has a lower approval rating than Hurricane Ian, okay? You don't want that. All right? You don't want to be relying on that. You want to have everything local within your home. It sets yourself up for reliability. It's very, very important. This thing's got a little bit of a delay in it. Okay, so that's not working very well at all. There we go. The button works. Speed. Okay, number two issue is speed, right? And this is pretty obvious, right, what the difference is with speed between local automation and cloud automation, right? With the local automation, your information is just going from, your device here to your hub, which is only a few feet away, right? 30 feet away. That's going to go pretty quick versus your cloud automations that are going from the device to the hub and then, again, to some server. It could be 1,000 miles away and back. Now, I know, information travels fast these days, and we could be talking the difference of just a second or two between a local automation and the speed of a cloud automation. But that makes a difference. That second makes a difference. Your customers are going to notice that difference, right? Because what they're comparing your home automations to is the speed and reliability that they're familiar with, which is a dumb switch, right? You walk into your home, an old home, you flip on the switch, the lights turn on immediately, right? They turn off immediately. And that is what your customers are going to expect if they've never had an automated home. They're going to want to walk in the room and have those devices working immediately, right? Otherwise, you're going to get customers walking in the room, it's not going to turn on, they're flailing their arms around, and they're not going to be happy. It lowers your satisfaction. So you want to have that local control for that speed, and you're going to have a lot happier customers when you have that. So then the third thing is data privacy, right? Data privacy. This is a big thing these days. People are getting more and more concerned with data privacy with all of their devices, especially in their home automations. We'll talk about the top concerns for smart tech devices. Privacy, 76% are worried about privacy, because we all know data is going to, Google's getting all of our data. Who knows what they're doing with that? Amazon's getting all of our data. And even worse, there's companies, if you're using cloud devices that you don't even know or trust, you don't know what they're doing with that data, but they're getting it. If it's going to the cloud, they're getting that data, right? And that data, if you have a cloud-based home, and that data, they can collect all the usage data in your home. They can know when you're coming and going. They can know what types of devices you're using, when you're going in and out of rooms. And just think how valuable that information is to marketers, right? So if you have a cloud-based home and they're sending that information to the cloud, they can sell your data and really market to you. And people don't like that. People do not like that. It is a big selling point for you if you can say, our hub is local, our home automation setup is local, your data is not going anywhere, you can trust us because it's all staying right in the house. We're not selling your information to anybody, anywhere. So let's talk about local automation here. My notes here. So, One sec here. Okay, so we all know the value of a local home automation. At least I hope I've sold you on that, or I'm failing so far with this speech. But how do we do it? Well, we need to first build our house around a local hub. Then we need to make sure we have local devices that are working well. We need to use local protocols that we trust. And we need to have a solid mesh network when we get those devices into the house. So let's start with the hub. There we go. All right, starting with the hub. All right, you want to make sure you have a local hub. Now I work with Habitat Elevation. We have a local hub, so yeah, I'm pushing that. But there are a lot of hubs that say they're local that are not necessarily local. They may have local elements to the hub, right? They'll have ZWave protocols and whatnot, but they'll be doing some local automations. But they might also have a cloud-based platform. They can be pushing updates to your hub that you don't want. So you got to really do your research and make sure, is the hub I'm working with completely local, right? Because if they push an update onto your hub and you don't want it, it can mess up the automations you already have. Your hub can suddenly not work with the devices it was working with before. So you really got to be careful. Make sure that hub you have is local and always local. Probably got to be pushing this at something. Why is it not working? Okay, so then once we get our local hub, we got to make sure we're using a local protocol for communication. Now, Zigbee and Z-Wave are the two biggest ones. Then there's Wi-Fi and LAN devices, network devices, also can be local, but those can also be cloud-based as well. You got to be careful with those. And then we'll talk about Matter here in a second. So, first of all, Zigbee and Z-Wave devices. These are probably the most established local protocols in home automation. They're wireless protocols. They've been around for quite a while. They pair directly with the hub. There's a wide range of devices for both Zigbee and Z-Wave. Pretty much runs the whole gamut, right? You got sensors, you got locks, you got lights. Whatever you want to do, you can find it with these protocols. Again, it's wireless, and they both create a mesh network, so they communicate. Not only to communicate directly with the hub, they can strengthen themselves by working together to communicate, find different paths directly to the hub, so they can really be fast and reliable throughout your house. So that's kind of the standards of home automation these days. The next most popular, actually very popular, are Wi-Fi or network devices. If you go to Best Buy, you will find a ton of Wi-Fi devices available for smart homes, right? Some of them work with hubs, some of them work on their own. If you're going to use Wi-Fi devices, they can work very well. All right, Wi-Fi devices can work very well in a home automation setup, but you have to make sure they're local. All right, a lot of Wi-Fi devices have their own clouds. They're sending your data to their own clouds. All right, and they might not work with the internet down, and they're sending that data that you don't want going to their home automation, their companies. Now, in order for a Wi-Fi device to work, it needs to have a LAN connection, right? So it's going to connect to your hub via the network. So you're probably going to need a router for that, and that's just another point of bang, bang, bang. That's just another potential point of problem with the home automation setup, right? So with the Zigbee or Z-Wave, is communicating directly with the hub. With a Wi-Fi device, is connecting to the router first, and then the hub. So if you're going to use Wi-Fi devices or network devices, you really want to make sure you have control over the network, because that can be a serious problem. You can set up the best home automation setup in the world, but if you're the installer of the home automation, there's another IT installer setting up the network. Either you better have a really good relationship with them so you can make sure that network is going to be robust enough to work with your home automation setup, or you really should be taking over that network setup yourself. So, and like I said, there are a wide range of devices for Wi-Fi or for LAN devices. Lutron is an example of a network device, right? They can have their own protocol that they communicate with their own hub, but then via the network, you can connect it to your hub and control Lutron devices with Z-Wave devices or Zigbee devices. It's a pretty slick setup, but just be sure you have a router that you can trust to work with that. So the other thing, Wi-Fi devices are pretty affordable and readily available, so it can be a nice option. But again, make sure it has that local API. That's what you're looking for, a local API with that. So let's talk about the thing everyone has been excited about in home automation, Matter. All right, Matter's coming out. I'm sure you guys are hearing a lot about Matter. We're hearing a lot about Matter. Everyone's excited about Matter. And I think it's going to be, Matter's definitely going to be a big thing. It's not a big thing yet, all right? So you got to slow your roll on that one a little bit, all right? I think Matter's great. It's got a lot of big heavy hitters behind it. It is a local protocol that's going to work well, but there are a lot of questions that we still don't know about Matter, right? Number one, when is it going to be readily available? What devices are going to be readily available? How much are those devices going to cost? And when they are available, like what availability is there going to be, right? We don't know the answer to these questions, and it's going to come, and I think Matter is something you're all going to have to be ready for when it's available. But if you're in the business of doing homes right now, if you're doing installs all the way through at least next year, you're not going to be able to count on Matter. Like, don't put all your eggs in the Matter basket at this point. Be ready for it. Be ready for it because it's coming, and we're going to be ready for it too. We're already planning for Matter, but you need to be ready to automate with other devices before that, because there's just too many unknowns at this point. Just too many unknowns. But it's something to be excited about and something to follow, but we can't be relying on that for at least a year or possibly more with that. All right, so let's talk a little bit about, after you've selected your protocols, just some key setup information. You gotta have a solid mesh network for all your devices. If you don't have a mesh network, even if you have a local setup, you're gonna run into the same problems that you do with a cloud setup if you don't have it set up correctly. So when you build out a mesh network, especially with Z-Wave and Zigbee, first of all, have your hub in a centralized location. That's the best thing you can do for that. So, because it's a radio device, the farther you get away from the hub, the more problems you're going to have. Make sure you're using repeating devices throughout the house. Don't depend on the hub to communicate with some device 60 feet away without some sort of hop in between it. I know they say it has that kind of range, but once you get walls in the way and other devices in the way, you just want to make sure you have multiple hops ready to communicate with the hub. You got to allow your mesh network to develop as you build it. Don't try to install all of your devices at one time and expect them just to magically work. Do them in smaller batches and try to install, starting with devices close to the hub, work your way out, and you'll have the best success at building a strong network. And the last thing is, use brands that you trust, all right? When it comes to devices, a lot of times you get what you pay for. Now, you can find affordable devices that work just as well as the most expensive name brands, but you gotta make sure you have experience with it and test those out. Don't just think you're gonna have, go out and find the cheapest device and it's gonna work as well as the heavy hitters. It's not. If you have the ability to set up a similar setup before you start installing into your customers' houses, do that. I mean, you wanna have experience because you're gonna run into a lot of different scenarios in people's houses, and you wanna be ready for that and have it tested before you say, yeah, this is gonna work great, and then, it doesn't. So, talked a lot about local. Does that mean that there are no applications for cloud-based automations? No. If you have a local hub, there are still reasons to use the cloud. The key with a local hub is make sure that nothing you're relying on for the basics of your home automation is cloud-based, all right? Always have a local option, but there are some things that you're going to want to use the cloud for, and these are things that it's okay to rely on the cloud for. Number one, remote access to your hub to either manage the hub, support the hub, right? I know a lot of you guys, once you install your system into someone's house, you don't have to roll a truck to go back to set it up, right? So if you can set it up so that you have remote access to manage that hub, that's a great deal for you guys. But also you want to have that local access too. Don't have that be the only way to connect with the hub. Make sure there is a local way to manage that hub. But if you can add on remote access, that's a benefit to you. Dashboards. Your customers are going to want dashboards in their house. But again, make sure there's multiple ways of connecting that dashboard, right? If they want to, say, control their lights while they're in Tahiti, they're going to need a cloud access dashboard for that. But if you're installing a panel in someone's house, right, to control the lights in that room, there is no reason to send that information 1,000 miles away, right? Just communicate with the hub. It's faster, it's more reliable, and again, that data privacy. So always make sure you have a local system for that. Voice control is something customers love. That's just not very reliable if you're not, it's not even possible if you're not doing it cloud-based. There's so much AI involved in your Alexas and your Google Homes that has to go through the cloud. But the thing is, you can't make that be the only way to turn on and off a light, right? If your customers want Alexa, that's great, but make sure there is a local way for them to control their lights through a local dashboard, through local automations. Don't have them only relying on Alexa, because if they're only relying on that, the internet goes down, their whole house goes down, and they're coming to blame you, not the internet. So and the last thing is cloud backup. If you want to have a hub backed up in the cloud, that's something you do. Just make sure your customers trust the cloud you're using and tell them you're not using their data for anything outside. So to wrap up, if you didn't listen to a short brief introduction, make sure you're using local hubs over cloud-based hubs. You want reliability, it's number one. Speed, number two. Privacy, number three. And you're only going to get that with the local hubs. If you're using cloud-based automations for your installs, it may work out great, but the day's going to come when it's going to fail, and they're going to call you, and you're going to wish you were a beekeeper or something and not in the home automation business at that point. So that's it for me, guys. My name is Pete Borchers. Thank you so much for your time. Yay, one guy clapped. All right. Yes! Okay, does anyone have any questions before I go? Our booth's over there, by the way, 6044 Habitat. It's right over there. Come visit. Any questions from the audience here?
Any questions for him?
It's okay. Like, how'd you get so good looking? I don't know. All right, well, I guess I will take off. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.